Beloved child, there are pains that do not disappear simply because you bury them deep, and there are wounds that are not healed simply because you have learned to smile in front of others. I see the things you do not say. I hear even the sighs you try to swallow in the night. I know there are times when you tell yourself that you must be strong, that you must endure, that you must stay silent, that you must keep walking as though nothing has happened. But my child, true strength is not hiding pain until the heart becomes hardened. True strength is daring to bring what has been broken into the light, daring to name the truth, daring to open your hands so that I may touch the place you once kept covered because of fear and shame. Do not think that I only draw near to you when you are already well, already composed, already peaceful enough to speak beautiful words. I draw near to you even when you are trembling, confused, and do not know where to begin. I do not despise your tears, nor do I turn my face away from the parts of your life that are still in disorder. I am a merciful Father, not someone standing far away to judge you for having been wounded. When you are in pain, I do not ask why you are weak. I ask whether you are willing to let me bind you up. When you are weary, I do not demand that you prove you are brave enough. I invite you to lean on me, because healing does not begin with you pretending to be strong, but with you becoming honest. There is a story you should ponder. The woman who had suffered from illness for many years lived in isolation and shame. For so long, she carried a silent pain within her, pushed to the margins, made to shrink back by the eyes of others. She could have continued hiding, could have accepted that her fate was only to endure in the darkness. But one day, she stepped out from the crowd of fear. She had no long speech, no radiant confidence, only a small faith strong enough to stretch out her hand and touch the garment of the Savior. And in the very moment she dared to step out, dared to believe that she could still be restored, healing power touched her. Do you see? The miracle did not meet her in the place where she kept hiding. It met her on the path where she dared to move toward the light. Therefore, do not call toxic silence maturity. Do not call locking yourself away in loneliness strength. There are things you must keep private until the right time, but there are also things that, if hidden too long, become a darkness that swallows the life within you. The enemy often whispers that you should not speak, that no one will understand you, that if others know how deeply you hurt, they will look down on you. But I tell you that truth brought into the light will gradually lose its power to weigh you down. What you name before me will no longer secretly control you as it once did. What you dare to acknowledge will become the beginning of deliverance. I am not telling you to expose everything before everyone, because not everyone is wise and loving enough to hold what is precious within you. But I will place beside you people with upright hearts, people who know how to listen, how to intercede, how to lift you up without taking advantage of your wounds. You need to learn the difference between closing yourself off out of fear and opening your heart with wisdom. A healthy community does not strip you of dignity. A healthy community reminds you that you do not have to fight alone. There are burdens that, when shared in light and trust, are no longer as heavy as when you carried them silently in the darkness. Many times you have blamed yourself for still being weak, for still hurting, for not getting over things as quickly as others expected. But beloved child, I do not measure your maturity by whether you never shed tears. I see courage in the moment you honestly say, "Father, I need to be healed." That is not failure. That is an open door. That is the moment you stop pretending, stop trying to stop the bleeding with your own trembling hands, and allow me to enter the room you locked away for too long. There are doors inside you that only honesty can open, not the appearance of strength. Remember that pain hidden for too long can change its form into bitterness, suspicion, distance, and weariness. It can cause you to see others through a lens of defense, to misunderstand love, to fear closeness, and to prepare to withdraw before anyone has truly drawn near. I do not want you to live like someone who must always stand guard against every hand extended toward you. I want you to be free to love without being chained by the past, to walk without constantly hearing the echo of what once hurt you. But for that to happen, you must let me bring light all the way to the source, not merely soothe the surface. Sometimes healing begins with an honest conversation. Sometimes it begins when you stop denying that you are exhausted. Sometimes it begins with an unpolished prayer, simple as the cry of a child calling to the Father through tears. Sometimes it begins when you seek out a wise guide, a trustworthy friend, or a community that can walk with you through the dark season. Do not see those steps as signs of weakness. The one who knows how to seek help is not a loser. That is the one who has chosen life instead of continuing to sink in silence. I want you to understand that light does not shame you. Light sets you free. When a dark room is opened, the dust appears not so the room may be condemned, but so it may be cleaned. When the truth is revealed, it is not so you may be humiliated, but so what is distorted can no longer hide. I do not draw you out of darkness to wound you further. I call you out so you may see that there is still dawn, still a hand to lift you, still a path of restoration. The thing you thought would destroy you if spoken aloud may often be the very thing that begins losing power when brought before me. So do not continue living as though enduring alone were your only path. Draw near to me with all your truth. Let your mouth speak what your heart has carried for too long. Ask me to show you which person is trustworthy enough to walk with you, what words need to be spoken, what steps need to be taken, what boundaries need to be rebuilt, and which wound needs to be touched first. I am not in a hurry with you, but neither do I want you to remain forever in the narrow place of old pain. Step out little by little. Let the light call your name. Believe that softness placed in my hands is no longer a place of failure, but becomes the place where power, mercy, and restoration begin to flow. You were not born to be kept hidden by darkness. You are called to be healed, lifted up, and one day, your own story will become a gentle lamp for those who are still weeping in silence. Beloved child, I have carried you through many seasons. You thought you could never survive. There were days when you fell under the weight of weariness, and I placed my hand upon you and lifted you up. There were times when you wandered among mist-covered crossroads, and I lit a small ray of light, just enough for you to find the way home. There were nights when you thought every prayer had fallen into silence, yet I was still quietly keeping you from depths your eyes could not see. Even so, today I do not merely want you to remember that I have helped you before. I want you to grow in your response. I want to see you rise, not by your own strength, not by pride, nor by the fragile will of man, but by a faith that knows how to listen and knows how to walk. It is time for you to understand that true faith is not only the warmth you feel when you are comforted, nor merely the tears of emotion in a sacred moment. True faith is revealed when you still choose what is right, when your heart no longer feels stirred, when you still obey my voice, when no one applauds, when you remain faithful, when convenience is no longer beside you. There will be days when you do not feel strong, but you can still choose to keep walking. There will be hours when you do not see a clear sign, but you can still hold my word like a lamp in your hand. Maturity is not found in always feeling full of fire, but in not turning your back on the light when emotion grows quiet. Remember Naaman, the great commander who carried within him an illness that brought him shame and helplessness. He came seeking healing with lofty expectations, imagining that everything must unfold in a grand, majestic way that matched his own thinking. But what he received was a simple instruction: go down to the river and obey. At first he became angry because that obedience seemed too ordinary, too humble, too different from what he had imagined. Yet, when he lowered himself and stepped into the water again and again, the miraculous happened. Do you see? The miracle did not meet him in his argument, nor did it meet him in his wounded pride. It met him at the place where he was willing to do what had been spoken. In the same way, I do not always lead you with thunderous signs. Many times, I only place before you one small step, one humble action, one quiet act of resolve, and there, power begins to make a way. Therefore, do not continue living in the valley of hearing much but doing little, knowing much but changing little, being moved often yet still keeping the same old patterns. I did not create you to stand on the sidelines as a spectator of someone else's journey of faith. You are not called only to listen to beautiful words and then return to the old way of living, still reacting as before, still fearing as before, still clinging to the things that keep you far from me. You are called to step out, to become one who carries light, one who turns what has been received into concrete life through every choice. If you only hear without action, the word is like seed placed upon stone. It may appear present, but it has not taken deep root. I want my word to enter your life, to enter the way you speak, the way you think, the way you choose, the way you let go, and the way you rise. There are cycles you have grown so used to that you have mistaken them for destiny. You are used to delaying, then calling it waiting. You are used to fearing, then calling it caution. You are used to holding on to pain, then treating it as proof that you no longer have to open your heart. You are used to staying inside a narrow comfort zone, then assuming that it is peace. But my child, not every familiar place is where I want you to remain. There are cages made of habit with no lock on the outside, yet the one inside does not step out because they have forgotten they were created for a wider sky. Many times I have called you to leave the old place, not so you would lose safety, but so you would enter a greater freedom. You need to hear this with a tender heart. I cannot rescue you from what you still insist on holding like treasure. I cannot lead you out of a room when you keep locking the door from the inside and then blaming the light for not coming in. I cannot renew your life if you continue protecting the habits that are draining your faith. I love you deeply, but my love does not indulge avoidance. I am merciful, but that mercy is not meant to keep you weak forever. It is meant to raise you into maturity, so you may choose truth instead of excuses, obedience instead of delay, release instead of continuing to wound yourself. Do not misunderstand my waiting as distance. Sometimes I do not act in the way you expect, not because I am cold, but because I am teaching you to cooperate with grace. I have given light, but you must open your eyes. I have shown the way, but you must move your feet. I have placed the key in your hand, but you must stop standing before the door and weeping. I will not force you to love what is good through violence, because true love invites. It does not turn you into an unconscious shadow, but when you choose obedience, even if it is only one trembling step, I will meet you there. I do not require you to be perfect before you walk. I only call you not to keep making excuses for standing still. From now on, learn to recognize the places where you must become decisive. Perhaps it is a relationship that pulls you away from peace. Perhaps it is a bitter word you keep repeating whenever you are hurt. Perhaps it is laziness disguised as fatigue, pride disguised as self-protection, or delay disguised as the promise. Tomorrow I will begin. I do not come to condemn you, but to open your eyes. When light points out something that needs to change, do not quickly cover it again. Speak to me honestly. Then rise and do what you already know is right. Some chains do not fall away merely because you wish they would disappear. They fall when you stop cooperating with them. I know you are afraid of the cost. You fear others will not understand. Fear losing what is familiar, fear stepping out and not having enough strength to continue. But, beloved child, obedience is never a lonely road when you walk with me. What you lose when you turn away from darkness cannot compare with what you receive when you step into the light. The things you release from your hands may hurt for a moment, but those empty hands will have room to receive what I have prepared. You cannot hold tightly to the past and receive the new season at the same time. You cannot keep wearing the old garment of fear and also put on the courage I give. A clear choice will open a new flow in your life. So rise today, not with haste but with holy resolve. Do one specific thing you already know you need to do. Speak an apology if it is needed. Stop feeding what defiles your thoughts. Step out of the habit that slowly weakens you. Restore order to your day. Return to my word not only to be comforted but to be led. And when you take that first step, you will see that I am not far away. I have been waiting for you at the place of obedience. I will add strength when you choose to stand. I will open the way when you choose to move forward. I will do something new when you stop clinging to the old. You are not defined by the hesitations of the past. You are one who can still respond to the call today. And in that response, a new journey will begin. Beloved child, every morning when your eyes open, before your feet touch the floor, before work, messages, responsibilities, and worries rush in, you stand before a small yet sacred door. What will you allow to come out of your mouth first? Some people begin the day with a sigh, and their whole day becomes colored by that heaviness. Some wake and immediately name what is lacking, and their minds are led into the narrow road of unrest. But there are also those who, though circumstances have not yet changed, choose to speak with gratitude, choose to see the new day as a gift, choose to let gracious words prepare the way before them. My child, do not take that moment lightly. A small word can be like a match that lights a lamp. It can also be like a stone thrown into water, sending ripples farther than you realize. I want you to learn to see your mouth as a gate. Through that gate, life may enter, but weariness may also be invited to remain. Many think words vanish into the air, but I tell you that the words you speak often return to build the atmosphere in which you live. When you keep repeating that you are weak, that you have failed, that you are unloved, that you cannot overcome, it is not the circumstance that immediately binds you, but your heart gradually accepting the old garment of helplessness. In contrast, when you practice speaking words that are upright, full of faith, and filled with hope, you are sowing bright seeds into the field of your days. Those seeds may not sprout at once, but they will quietly work beneath the deep soil until a new season begins to turn green. There is an old story you should remember about David when he returned to Ziklag and found everything seemingly devastated. The homes had been burned, loved ones had been taken away, and those who had gone with him were so grieved that they turned and blamed him. In that moment, David could have let bitterness pour from his mouth, could have cursed the days, could have condemned himself, could have sunk into despair like everyone else. But he found strength again in the Lord his God, then rose and asked which way he should go. Do you see? He did not deny the pain, but neither did he hand authority over to the pain. That return opened the path of restoration. What seemed completely lost was not the final point. From the ashes, a direction was given. From tears, a recovery began. Therefore, when you fall into a difficult day, what matters is not only what you are facing, but what you will say, what you will believe, and to whom you will return in that moment. So do not wait until you are in solemn places, formal gatherings, or moments when your heart overflows with emotion, before you use your words to stand on the side of light. Spiritual life does not happen only in set-apart hours, but also in the small kitchen, on the road to work, in a hurried phone call, and when you face a task beyond your strength. When work piles up, you can say you will collapse, or you can remind your heart that I will give strength for each step. When you are misunderstood, you can immediately speak bitter words, or you can choose gentleness so that you do not lose your peace. When you look at what is unfinished, you can complain because you are still far from the goal, or you can give thanks because I am still leading you. These choices are not loud, and no one may applaud them, but they are quietly shaping the person within you. Understand this, beloved child. Declaration is not the way you pretend everything is easy. It is not a mask to cover your weariness. A true declaration is the courage to place truth above temporary feeling. There are moments when you still tremble, but you do not let trembling write the story. There are times when your eyes are still wet, but you do not let tears determine the final conclusion. There are moments when you have not yet seen the door open, but you still speak with faith that I know the way, where you cannot yet see one. That is not self-deception. That is choosing to stand under the light instead of sitting too long in darkness. That is how a child trusts the Father even when the road ahead is still unclear. I want you to be careful with words that seem harmless. A repeated sentence like, I will never be able to do this, can become a wall. A sentence like, everything is always terrible, can become dark glass over your eyes. A self-condemning word can make you forget the dignity I have placed within you, but a gentle reminder that you are being upheld can keep you from collapsing. A word of gratitude in the midst of lack can open a wider sky within your heart. A word of forgiveness, spoken at the right time, can keep anger from becoming a chain. So guard your words not with fear, but with wisdom, not to become rigid, but so that everything you speak may be soaked in grace. You must also learn to speak to yourself as I speak to you. Do not befriend cruel words in your mind and then call it humility. When you stumble, do not name yourself by failure. Call yourself one who is being corrected and lifted up. When you are weak, do not declare that you are useless. Remember that my strength is often revealed in vessels that know how to rely on me. When you move more slowly than others, do not despise your process. Trust that I do not measure you by the speed of the crowd, but by the faithfulness of each step. The words you speak to yourself each day are like water poured into a hidden garden. If that water is pure, good seeds will grow. If that water is bitter, even precious things can easily wither. Then you will recognize that the atmosphere around you often changes first from the atmosphere within you. A room may still be the same room, but when you enter it with words of peace, tension no longer has the right to direct all your reactions. A task may still be difficult, but when you speak with faith, you no longer work as one being crushed, but as one being accompanied. A conversation may still be sensitive, but when your mouth is guarded, you do not pour more oil onto the fire. I am not telling you to use beautiful words to control people, or force circumstances to obey your will. I am teaching you to use upright words, to open your heart to life, to walk in freedom, and to not be dragged along by every passing emotion. Therefore, from today onward, practice a new way of living. Before complaining, pause and find one thing for which you can give thanks. Before saying you cannot, remember that you do not walk alone. Before responding from woundedness, let wisdom place a hand over your lips. Before calling your day gloomy, ask what light I want to sow into it. You do not need to speak a great deal. You only need to speak rightly, speak gently, speak with faith and attentiveness. A day led by truthful words is different from a day abandoned to noise. And as you remain faithful in small things like this, each page of your life will no longer be written by fear, complaint, or disappointment, but covered with hope, lifted by grace, and made into a gentle testimony that I am still renewing you day by day. Many times you have allowed temporary emotions to decide in place of truth. When your heart is sad, you think you have been forgotten. When you are wounded, you think you no longer have worth. When you must wait, you think my silence means I am far away. But my child, emotions are like the surface of water when the wind passes over it, able to rise into waves for a moment and then change again. My word is like the bedrock beneath the river, quiet but firm, not swept away by sudden rain. If you live only by what you feel, you will be pulled from one place to another, hopeful today and drowning in doubt tomorrow. But when you cling to my word, you begin to stand upright, not because the storm has stopped, but because within you there is an unshakable foundation. Remember the young servant of the prophet Elisha. When the city was surrounded by the enemy, and human eyes saw only danger ahead, he looked outside and saw every way of escape seemingly blocked, and his heart trembled because what he saw was larger than what he believed. But the prophet did not allow the servant's fear to rule that moment. He prayed that the servant's eyes would be opened, and then the young man recognized that around them was a protection far greater than the army threatening them. Do you see? The outer circumstance did not immediately change, but the inner vision was renewed. That is also what my word does within you. It does not always move the mountain before your eyes at once, but it opens your sight to know that you are not alone, not being swallowed, not abandoned to darkness. When you believe, truth begins to shine in places once covered by fear. Therefore, do not treat my word as a storehouse of information to know more, nor read it with dry habit like someone walking through a field without bending down to gather seed. Every true word is a seed of life, but seed only sprouts when placed in good soil and tended with perseverance. If you only hear and leave it aside, that word remains outside the door. If you ponder it, remember it, guard it, and allow it to speak with the deepest places within you, it will begin to take root. It will heal the way you see yourself, renew the way you respond to others, and rebuild the places that once collapsed under disappointment. There are wounds that are not healed by noise, but by a quiet truth repeated in faith, until the heart learns to rest. When lies come, do not let them sit in the seat of authority in your mind. Do not argue with them in panic, and do not feed them by repeating your fear again and again. Learn to answer with what I have planted in you. When that voice says you cannot go on, remember that I have never left you. When it says the past has locked the future, let my word remind you that the old no longer has the right to rule forever over one whom I have lifted up. When it says you are unworthy of love, stand still before me and receive the truth that you are called by mercy, corrected by love, and led by a gentle hand. Each time you answer in this way, an old link weakens, a dark corner loses power, and a part of you begins to breathe with new peace. I want you to practice this as a rhythm of life, not as a heavy ritual. In the morning, before worries call your name, give me a quiet space to receive a word that will become a lamp for the day. At midday, when pressure makes you want to react in haste, pause for a moment and let truth guide your mouth. In the evening, when unfinished things try to accuse you, return to me with honesty, so my word may wash away weariness and teach you to sleep in trust. You do not need to begin with great things. Only be faithful in each small moment, because great light often enters your life through quiet acts of obedience. Do not forget that confession is not speaking merely for the sake of speaking. And it is certainly not covering pain with outwardly strong sentences. Confession is placing your mouth on the side of truth, even when your emotions have not yet followed. There will be times when you speak through tears, times when your heart still trembles, but faith does not require you to always feel strong before you can walk. Faith begins when you choose to trust me more than the noise surrounding you, and when you repeat what is true with a tender heart. That word will slowly realign the rhythm of your inner being, like a musician patiently tuning an instrument that has long been out of tune. Finally, beloved child, I do not give you my word to add another burden to you, but to help you find freedom. Freedom does not mean there are no more trials. It means trials no longer control you. Freedom does not mean every emotion disappears. It means emotion is no longer allowed to become king over your life. Freedom is when you know how to return to the light each time darkness calls your name. When you no longer believe every accusation simply because it sounds loud. When you understand that my truth is deeper than the changes of a day and more enduring than what others say about you. Hold my word, as a traveler holds a lamp in a long night. Keep walking step by step, keep reading, keep remembering, keep responding with faith, and you will see. The light does not only shine on the road ahead, but also makes the inside of you spacious, peaceful, and full of new life.